Right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
Hello.
Hello. We'll start off with what happened last week. Last week, Tanya and I were at the PA Conference for Women here in our own hometown of Philly. And guess what topic came up? Spending. We like to call it consumerism. To give you guys a little bit of background on this, we started building out our WealthMore communities. We had a lot of conversation about consumerism. Do we go there? Do we talk about it? A lot of which has to do because whenever other people talk about consumerism, you get into this don't buy coffee, avocado toast, pocket watching, which we all hate. We stayed away from talking about consumerism. At the conference last week, this amazing young woman, Raquel, I think her name is Raquel, told us, literally was so honest and said, number one thing standing in the way of me building wealth is consumerism. Spending, can't help it.
Yeah, and Raquel was very open about her situation, makes good money. She doesn't have any kids, right? So she's certainly in a position where she's in a good financial position, she's a good income position, but it's very hard, right, to allocate her funds in a way that helps her build because it's just so easy to spend her money all over the place,
We
even
had,
at the conference.
right? At conference, you could have spent a lot of money. You could actually spend a lot of money at that conference. But what I thought was interesting is that when we told Raquel, like, here's why we haven't spoken about consumerism. And do you think we should talk about consumerism? She had a friend with her, and they both vehemently agreed, yes, talk about consumerism. We told them our next episode of All the Wealth would be about consumerism. So here we are.
Hmm. Yep.
We didn't want this to be about people speculating about spending. And I feel like as a woman, there's always a lot more scrutiny about how women spend, which is not in any way based on any real facts of women overspending. We wanted to bring this to you, but with a whole bunch of data and why you might be feeling like spending is all around you and why you might be feeling like really hard to build wealth with all this consumerism everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It is tough. It's very easy to spend money, right? And how do we figure out ways to sort of combat the pressure? Because it's all around you. It's in person, it's in a store, it's in going to a conference about women. And I mean, the online like environment, the ease of purchase, it's all over the place. And how do you sort of block those things out so you can focus on what you want to accomplish?
Just take it from us, right? So we did a little digging to find out just how many ads you might be seeing in any given day. So get ready for this. All
Mm.
right, this is going to blow you away. Average American is exposed to between 4,000, 10,000 ads every single day. That includes ads from media platform you can imagine. TV, radio, social media, search engine, websites. Now you might say, okay, 4,000 to 10,000. That's a lot of ads. And is this normal? It's not. So we also looked at what did previous generations see? Ready for this? In the 1970s, the average person saw between 500 and 1,600 ads per day. So we are seeing 10 times more ads than our parents ever saw. So when we're hearing this generation spends and spending, and it's sort of, this generation just likes to spend, the reality is you are being fed way more ads. The ads that you obviously see, but the ones that are just kind of like embedded here, there, and everywhere.
Not only that, think about when your parents, even if they saw that many ads, think about the process they had to go through to actually purchase something. They had to walk into a store. They had to make sure there was enough money in their checking account, maybe write a check. I haven't seen a check in years, but maybe write a check. It's unlikely in the 70s that they were using a credit card, right? They did have tons of layaway plans, right? So this time factor also as well, the sort of delayed gratification was built into the process if someone did not have the funds readily available. And also gives the person pause, right? Maybe I'm not going to do this. I just don't have the money. Certainly not the case today, right?
Then I wanted to sort of figure out like ad proliferation of ads everywhere. Like, are people falling for it? Are they buying more? Oh, ads are working. So get this,
Mhm.
impulse buying. Here's what the ads do. They get us into this habit of impulse buying. According to one piece of research, 80% of all shoppers have made an impulse purchase. Now, it gets even more interesting. It says, according to the Path to Purchase Institute, so there's actually an institute out there that studies Americans' buying behaviors. 92% of Americans have made an impulse purchase at any given point. You might say, okay, well, 92, right? Okay, there's a little even more to the point about the online shopping, right? Her survey found that 79% of in-store shoppers make an impulse purchase and 58% of online shoppers. So at least online there's a little bit of buffer versus when you're in the store, but still 92% of us are making these impulse buys.
That number, that 58% will change, right? Just think about your path to purchase. When you do purchase something online, you get this thing that pops up. Oh, some things you may have missed. Or maybe you want this as well. That's the impulse. I mean, I think people may not also be counting what the impulse actually is. Is the impulse the purchase itself because it's online, or is it the impulse that we are we relating it to the impulse that you make in a store, like in Marshalls when you're standing on that line, you sort of pick up these extra things. That I think the perception is that that's the impulse. I think with online, there's isn't a clear distinction as to is the initial purchase the impulse, right? Because the impulse, I mean, it's so easy to buy online, right? I think that may sort of skew the number in a way that may be a little bit inaccurate. I mean, we almost have two levels of impulse purchase online, right? It's harder.
Also a bit of the how you feel. The studies also tie the impulse shopping to a feeling. And the feeling that they notice seems to be the most pronounced when people are more likely to be, or susceptible to impulse buying when they feel excitement.
Yeah.
That surprised me. Kind of lean more towards retail therapy versus retail excitement. So that was surprising. But I could see how people are like, hey, I want to reward myself. Something major happened. I want some trinkets, some trophies, something to be like, hey, to celebrate it, right? Like, hey, this awesome project, I got kudos at work, or I got a promotion, or I got into this special thing. The notion of like, hey, I should go treat myself, that triggers an impulse buy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that feeling feels better. I mean, I sort of like, I mean, there's very few impulse purchases that I've made that for one, that I can remember, and two, that I feel great about. It's usually the opposite for me, right? Something shows up at my door that I clearly bought under an impulse purchase scenario. I didn't even remember buying it, and dang it, why did I buy this, right? I think that's how I view the impulse purchases just personally. But I think it's just the idea that you didn't intend to buy this thing, right? And there's a feeling associated with that.
Then the next sort of leap is, well, how much of this impulse buying standing in the way of someone building wealth, right? Like our friend Raquel felt very strongly that the impulse buying, the online shopping, was standing in her way. So we went
Mhm.
and dug up the numbers to see how much. Our friends at Statistica have been tracking this. So in 2020, average American was spending $183 a month on impulse buys. In 2021, number jumped to 276 bucks a month. 2022 number jumps even higher to 314 bucks a month. And then in 2023, number comes down, and I would venture to say that had something to do with inflation, but the number goes down to 151 bucks in 2023. And of course, we don't know the 2024 numbers yet. But what stuck to me about that is that these are big numbers, be it 180 or 300, those are big numbers. But the $300 number really jumped out at me because we often do the math on how much would you have to save a month to get to $1 million over, let's say, a 40-year period, and you're getting a 8 to 10% return. And surprisingly, that too is 300 bucks a month.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's how it's directly related. I think part of the problem is not having a spending plan, right? Just an idea, right? Some sort of framework of how much can I spend on what. That $300 additional per month is not such a terrible thing if you've allocated for it, right? And you've sort of covered all of the other bases. It's unlikely the case, right? It's usually the case that I don't have anything in place, or I haven't made any sort of plan, and I just know that I'm not moving in the direction that I want to go in. And that's where that $300 makes a big dent. I mean, think about the timing of when these numbers that you're looking at are reflecting. I mean, essentially Americans understood the assignment, right? There was a whole bunch of, relief that went out to a lot of Americans, and people did exactly what was expected of them, right? We are a consumer driven economy. But we also understood the flip side of that. Hey, no more extra money. Could I have done better with this money? Absolutely. I did it. But now I don't have it and I'm not spending it anymore. So those numbers are a direct reflection of that. But the reality is we have much more control than we think, right?
And I wanted to focus this on the impulse buy because, like we said at the beginning, we hate pocket watching, right? Like I've been
Hmm.
on the receiving end of pocket watching, and I had some interesting thoughts I wanted to communicate back to the folks who were watching my pockets.
It's weird to watch someone else's pocket.
Know why? She given what I do, right?
I mean, it's a very weird situation.
Right? And
Yeah.
so we wanted to focus this on the ads and the impulse buy because I think we're all susceptible to it, right? Like you're seeing
Hmm.
10,000 ads a day. Something's gonna, one of these ads is gonna like,
Eventually, it's going to get you. Yes,
right? So one
it's
of them
going
is
to
gonna
get you.
get you. And maybe across, if it's 10,000 a day over 30 days, you've seen 300,000 ads in a month. So it's not surprising that you parted ways with 300 or so bucks in impulse buying. But that 300 or so bucks is certainly standing in the way of maybe a bigger, more important goal than you have. To your point, Tanya, that most of those impulse buys you probably don't remember or probably regret.
And just think about what that number is. That's on average $3,600 that could have gone into, an investment account that with it now that's money, that money is working for us. It could have gone to the emergency savings account. Things inevitably happen, right? Could have meant, having the funds to cover an emergency purchase as opposed to going to your credit card to cover the purchase. It means it gets attached to so many things that would make you feel a lot better about your financial situation as opposed to that small, very fleeting, instant gratification that you get from the impulse purchase. But we're not, unfortunately, we're not wired that way. And the younger you are, the less likely you're able to make those connections because the time factor, right? It starts to feel worse. Or like the woman that we met at the conference, she she was a young woman, right?
And she
She's a
realized
young
it though.
woman. Yes. I mean, if even at that age you're saying, "Hey, this is like really hard to combat, right? I'm having a tough time." Uh, Imagine younger. I mean, this. It's not just adults being exposed to this; it's
Everyone, right?
kids, right?
Yeah, those
I
the
mean,
ads were not like, "Hey, this only happens to younger people." The ads happen to all of us. I'll just share some of the tips that I feel like at least work for me is
mhm,
to turn off some of the ads. Like if things are coming up in my feed a lot, I'll purposely click and say, "Do not show, not interested." That seems to help. Not pausing on any of them for in a nanosecond because the algorithm sort of sees that you pauses and views it as you might be interested in buying, right? Told you this before, Tanya. I don't wear lashes. I can't. Just irritate. But for some reason, I'm fascinated when I see some of these videos and pause on it. I just started getting like all of these like lash ads to the point where I had to like turn it off. I've also been fascinated by I think it's like the Korean face mask thing that's supposed to,
yes, that one
right,
I like.
supposed to give you like the glass face look, which
Mhm.
don't want, but have been intrigued by the whole process. And it was the algorithm, you know, interprets anything that you're intrigued by as a potential like buying opportunity. So turning off some of those ads might be helpful. Blocking them all together if you can, depending on which platform. I think maybe even just that awareness of, hey, this is all designed to get me into an impulse buy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of ways you can combat this. I mean, getting rid of the ad to begin with, right? Or the ads to begin with is certainly helpful. For me, you know me, I throw everything in the cart and just don't buy it. And I just wait because it's for me, it satisfies whatever that little need is. And I just don't hit
But
purchase
you must have like the cart that doesn't send you the
from
email
how
because
oh, it does, but I know, but like I know it's not stronger than the feeling I got from putting it in the cart.
putting it there.
Yeah, it's just repetition, just repetition. And I told you, even with my son, that's what I have him pause, right? And you forget.
I wonder if it's helpful for folks to maybe go back and do that like assessment, right? Like if you were to pull your, I don't know, your credit card statement or your debit card transactions from a month ago or a few months ago, just to maybe see like how much of this is impacting me, right? Like the awareness piece, right? It's like no different than hey realizing hey I'm consuming too many empty calories by drinking soft drinks, right? So just the awareness factor of it might actually help some folks.
Oh, it's not enough. I mean, studies say it's just not enough, but it helps, right? It puts you in the right it gets you started 100%. Awareness and education is just not enough to change behavior. We have to facilitate the behavior, make it easy, and then actually do it. There's a huge gap between like what we intend to do and what we actually do. But yes, it's certainly a step in the right direction. It's very hard to do. We are making it very clear that we know, we understand, right? It's not
Right,
an easy thing to do.
because you have the combination of NX ads versus the 70s. Store is always on. You can buy something at any time of the day,
Mhm,
particularly with online. And then you have the third leg of this, which is it's so easy to check out, right? Like
mhm.
you've loaded your card information just about any platform, a two-click checkout, order is on its way before you maybe even realize that you were about to make an impulse buy.
This stuff. I have the default card on my Amazon has no money in it. On purpose. On purpose. That did not work last night. I did not tell you this. Zach calls me and he says, "There's a movie I really want to see on Amazon. Can I buy it? Or can I rent it?" It was like $4. I said no, because I have to change the card and I'm driving. I can't do it. Get home. I see on my email it was rented.
Do
So I
it.
said to him, apparently I did not know on the Amazon screen, if the card doesn't work, you just put in another card. He put in his Apple Pay card and purchased it anyway.
Say like the swiftness in which, but this goes back to what is going to just be an even bigger issue for younger consumers, right? Because
Yes.
I we see the hidden fees, we see it on
Mm-hmm.
platforms, delivery platforms, be it the Instacarts, the DoorDashes, the Uber Eats, and have this like compounding effect of like ease of checkout and then ease of things having like embedded fees, all of which add up to that 300 or more bucks a month, which
Easily.
have you be a millionaire or stuck with a bunch
Right.
of
And
stuff.
the thing is that it has been proven over and over again that Americans are willing to pay for ease, right? We're willing to pay, we're willing to give our money to this company to make it easier for us to spend our money. Talk about like you know, a situation where you're hurting yourself and you're willingly doing it for ease and for comfort. I've even compared, just look at the DoorDash, the Uber Eats. I think the last time I checked, Zach loves KFC tenders. If I get it at the drive-thru, it's $7. If he tries to do it on Uber Eats, it's like $17.
Yeah, exactly. It adds up.
More than double, right?
Totally
And
adds
how
up.
many times? Yeah, this is money that certainly can be used for other things. And I am certainly not saying to sit here and count. You could if you want to. The results would be shocking. But taking little steps in acknowledgement of how hard it is to do, right? But some of these steps can help, right?
I think knowing that this is an impulse buy, right? Like that pause, almost
Hmm.
like, before you put the card details in, pausing to be like, do I really want this? Why am I buying this? Find to be very helpful. That intentionality of like, it's like stop, drop, and roll spending. And like, what is that equivalent of like, hey, let me make sure that this transaction really aligns with my goals and my intentions, right? Then you can even turn off not just the ads, but social media platforms are meant to bring you back. So notifications are meant to bring you back. Your friends tagging you, they don't tell you the full details, right? That is very intentional so that you can come back to the platform and be exposed to all the ads, right? Because that's how these platforms make money. You're on there, the ad spend, so that you can actually view the ads and ideally click and make a purchase. The time of year is actually perfect for us to be talking about this. As again, we wanted to bring you the facts. Google looked at this and Google sees 90% of the traffic. On the holidays, Google noticed that 1 in 3 holiday purchases are impulse buys.
That makes sense. Yeah, we talked about it very briefly in one of our other chats about when should you start planning. And I think for the holidays, right? Just saying, just starting to think about a plan for the holidays helps so much, right? So that these things don't happen. And this is where, I mean, you've said it a number of times, the awareness part. is the beginning, right? If that could reduce this impulse buying by 20%, right? Still dollars and cents that could have gone somewhere else. So will it completely eradicate the problem and make you a very conscious buyer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Probably not, but it can certainly help move us in the right direction.
And the stat that we don't have is how many ads do you see during the holidays? We
Oh my God.
know that goes into overdrive,
Hmm.
right? And it's sort of, when we turn on and we get the recap in January, Americans in particular, whether the economy is doing well or not, seem to always rally for the holidays.
Yeah.
A lot of times that rally is showing up as debt and remorse in January.
Yeah, and just think about these impulse buys, especially the ones that you see like on social media, all these things. And I've been susceptible to them, especially when it comes to kids stuff. Those are the things that don't even last a month, right? Those are the things that the kid,
Landfill,
you bought
straight
this
to the
thing,
landfill.
100%,
To the landfill. I mean, I actually think some of these things are designed to not last beyond December.
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's probably the worst feeling. The impulse buy that was just not worth any of it. And you get a lot more of those during the holidays.
So we promise you guys no talk about coffee. Didn't
Yeah.
go there. Don't think it's really the issue. Two,
Mm-mm.
avocado toast. If you like avocado toast, please enjoy. You're making a deliberate decision to have some avocado toast. That's not the thing that's holding you back. It's likely all the ads you're seeing designed to get you to make an impulse buy. 100% designed to do that. And some of them have messaging that's supposed to hit all those neurons, right? Like it's going to make you feel better. It's going to make you healthier. It's going to make you more attractive. It's going to make you, smarter. Like they're triggering an emotion to get you to make that impulse buy. Those impulse buys add up. I think if you had told me to guess how much people were spending on impulse buys, I would have said probably $100 a month. I would not have thought it was as high as like 314 bucks a month.
Yeah, and I think that number is probably just relating to the purchase price without awareness of the whole ecosystem that's put in place for you to actually do this thing. So it's not just the company that's selling the product, it's the social media platform that wants your eyeballs and your time. It's the payment ecosystem, right? Fees that are right. So this is, yeah, associated with purchasing these things. And these are
Everyone's
huge
getting rich.
companies. Everyone's getting
Everyone's
rich. So
getting
are
rich
you.
except you. I mean,
Exactly.
let's face it, everyone's getting rich except you. If we want to sort of take this step further, it's why we hear these stats, right? Like 60 or 70% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. That's all part of this like spend centric model that we live in. And the reality is the US economy is a service based economy that relies on you, me, all of us spending.
Dating myself, but layaway was such a big thing when I was a kid, but it requires you to plan. It requires you to start early, right?
Yeah.
That's lost, right? You can certainly pay over time, but you get the thing right away. And that does not work for us in the long run. It actually promotes the wrong behavior. So it's
Interesting that you mentioned layaway because technology platforms, so buy now, pay later, was meant to
mhm.
be, in some regards, a modern day layaway. The only problem is you got the thing right away before you paid for it. It created this pattern of buying and buying without paying. And it's why you'll hear people nickname it buy now, pay never.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And they give you more money the more you use it over time. At least more purchasing power, not
Exactly.
money.
Right.
Um, but it promotes the wrong behavior. But it's all on purpose.
We have to thank Raquel for having us here today and for allowing us to have this chat with all these facts about it, right? So it's not, you guys now have the information. You're now aware that you're seeing anywhere between 4,000 to 10,000 ads a day. And those ads literally add up, impulse spending that could be hundreds of dollars a month that directly impact your goals towards building wealth. Now that the tools are in your hands, it's up to you, friend.
Yeah.
To you.
Turn off ads and
Pocket
whatever
watching.
you try to get.
It's
No
up to
pocket
you.
watch.
Shaming, no pocket watching.
Mm-mm.
You guys now have the information. You are empowered. You're going into the holiday season realizing that you're probably going to see 30,000 ads a day. All's in your court.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add, Tanya?
No, I mean the only thing I will say is you can certainly make yourself more aware. Take little steps. Don't drive me so crazy. Little steps help us get in the right direction.
Up, drop, breathe.
Put in the
Sky
cart.
card. Hold it really tight. Look at the card. Walk away.
Yeah.
We know it's hard. And we know it's really hard around the holidays, but we wanted to give you guys the information so that you're aware and you can plan accordingly. Folks.
All right, guys.